Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Wulong Talks and welcome to the Wulong Talks podcast. My name is Jason. I'm the host of the show, as you guys would know by now. And today we're doing something slightly new and slightly different. I have decided that I'm going to start doing a series of short podcasts centered around action movies, some of my favorite action movies, because I know there's a lot of action movie fans out there. Some of my favorite action movies that feature women in the lead role. So the podcast series is going to be called Shereos. I know, very original. But we will talk through this series about a number of movies that are headlined by women in the lead role because I think there's just some awesome action movies out there that get overlooked, really, sadly, for one reason or another. So I'm going to try and use this space and this podcast series to try and highlight a couple of my favorite movies. Hopefully, you'll find some things that you like too. And if you've got recommendations for me to watch that you want me to kind of carry out a review discussion on, by all means, send it to us on the social medias. I'll make sure there's a link in the description so that you can find out where to follow us and so on and so forth. Now, for today's movie, we're going to be talking about one of my faves from the 90s. It's this bad boy right here, The Long Kiss Goodnight. This is a movie that I really adore. I really do. I remember first seeing it years ago in the cinema when it came out around 1996. And just loving it, just being blown away by kind of the visuals, but chiefly the performance of Geena Davis and also Samuel Jackson as well in a supporting role, who's just great. He's just Sam Jackson. But for those of you who've never heard of the movie before, I'll give you a quick rundown of the synopsis as it's described here. So, Samantha Kane, who is played by Geena Davis, is a suburban school teacher who suffers from amnesia. When her mysterious past begins to haunt her idyllic life, she sets out on a desperate search to discover her true identity. Aided by Mitch Hennessy, played by Samuel Jackson, a deadbeat private detective, she follows a trail of clues into the middle of a terrorist conspiracy in the US intelligence community. They slowly learn that Kane is much more than a soft spoken teacher. Repressed from her memory is her former life as Charlie Baltimore, a highly trained secret agent and killer. But Charlie is slowly re emerging, which spells trouble for the terrorists and anybody who gets in her way. Now, if that's not a dope synopsis, I don't know what is. But Long Kiss Goodnight, long story short, as said, is one of my favourite action movies of any genre, really. I mean, it's one of my favourite movies of any genre. It always ranks pretty highly in terms of like the movies that, I love to watch. This movie is directed by Rennie Harlin. Some of you might know that name. He directed Die Hard 2 and Deep Blue Sea, among others. And it's written by Shane Black. Yes, the Shane Black, the one who did Lethal Weapon, the one who's in Predator, various other things that he's done over the years, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, lots of stuff. So you kind of know, if you're a Shane Black fan and you're an aficionado of his work, you kind of know what kind of script he's going to deliver in terms of dialogue. There's going to be lots of zippy one-liners. There's going to be lots of gags, and there's going to be some dark stuff going on as well. And you get plenty of that in spades in this movie. I don't think like I've ever heard Shane Black's lines delivered as well as they are by Samuel Jackson. But he really does kind of just, yeah, he Sam Jackson's it, so he's awesome. But as said, really, the star of the movie for me is Geena Davis. The reason being that because in this movie she actually has to play two characters, not one. So she inhabits one character called Samantha Kane, as you heard in the synopsis, who's somewhat mild-mannered school teacher. Your kind of typical middle America apple pie mom. That's basically who she plays. And then she has to play this other character, this absolute badass savage called Charlie Baltimore. She manages to do both of those superbly well. Like it kind of, watching her in the role and watching how well she does with this movie, it kind of leaves me wondering why she never really got more of that kind of work. I mean, I know she did Cutthroat Island, but I can't really think of many other kind of action type roles that she did. I mean, perhaps she didn't want to be pigeonholed. That may be something that's worth looking into, really. But She, you know, is absolutely fabulous because she's able to convince you that she is, on the one hand, as said, very mild mannered and very very meek, but then on the other hand, switches to this complete and utter badass who would take your life in the blink of an eye. And that's what makes the character of Charlie Baltimore so fascinating, and must have been so much fun for her to play as well. The direction from Rennie Harlin is really cool as well. There's loads of awesome shootouts. One of the things I love about 90s movies is that they don't give a damn about innocent bystanders. Like, everybody gets shot. Like, the bad guys are absolutely terrible shots, and they will shoot the shit out of everyone and everything but the person that they're aiming at. And that's one of those things that you don't kind of see in modern action movies. I guess from a morality point of view, you don't really want to be doing that. But yeah, you kind of miss that. You do miss that kind of wild stuff. It's crazy, really, when you think about it. But yeah, the action really is on point here. There's some really great set pieces. As I said, I don't want to go too much detail into actual breaking down scenes and things like that, because that's not really what I'm aiming to do with these videos. I want to try and keep them short and sweet. But if you do want to have kind of like detailed discussions and spoiler discussions about these things, then I'm super down with that. So yeah, just drop me a line, and you know, I'll be happy to chat with you and geek out about this movie, because this movie's amazing. If you haven't seen the movie before, I highly recommend you do track it down. It should be available on most streaming services by now. I'm not sure if it's available on Netflix in the UK, but I think you can get it on Amazon and possibly on Google Play, and I'm sure Apple probably has it by now as well. So there's plenty of places you can track it down, or you can just get a DVD copy. I mean, the copy that I showed you earlier is actually one that I bought online for like £1, I think it cost me. Because I had it on DVD before, and I don't know what I did with my DVD copy, but yeah, it's probably not that difficult to get hold of one that will have that plus a few extras and things like that as well. But it's definitely worth a movie worth checking out. And as said, it's worth checking out alone just for Geena Davis's awesome performance, Samuel Jackson's support, and for the action scenes as well, because they're really great. But there's lots of other people who pop up in the movie as well. There's David Morse, the late David Morse. He pops up in there as well. Brian Cox, who I'd completely forgotten was in this movie, is in it, and he's fantastic. It's basically just a cameo role that he has, but yeah, he's brilliant, as he always is in everything. So yeah, there's a few, you know, other recognizable faces that are in there. Craig Burko's in there as well. So yeah, there's quite a few kind of like names that will be familiar from the 90s. So especially if you're a 90s action thriller fan, then there's definitely faces that will pop up that you'll think, oh yeah, I've seen you before in that thing. So definitely go and check out The Long Kiss Goodnight. Can't recommend it highly enough. It's super awesome. And as said, yeah, it should be available everywhere. Right, next up, I'll be taking a look at the Korean action movie The Villainess, and I can't wait to talk about that one. But if you do have any other suggestions for me, as said, for female-led action movies that you want me to kind of check out and talk a little bit about, then send in your requests, send in your recommendations, and I'll be happy to do that. As said, check out the links below in the video on YouTube, and if you're listening on the audio podcast, then you'll find a link on there as to how you can get in touch with us on social media as well. Cool. All right. Well, until next time, we'll go and see some ass kickers. Take it easy, people. Later.